Hey guys, how you doing? Right here again. If you'd like to subscribe, it's Nitro Kyosho. Today, what I want to talk about is primarily an issue that some of my subscribers have asked me about, and it's having to do with problems with T-Rexes and having to do with tail issues. Okay. And basically, their questions is a lot of vibration or wagging or shaking or bouncing and different problems. So we're just going to talk quickly about how to fix these issues. Okay. Now, most of the time you're not going to have any of these issues until you have some sort of a crash. And most of the time, if you're picking these things up, guys, and you got dirt in your tail blades, that mostly will lead to like a bent tail rotor shaft. Okay, but that's not always the case. There can be about 3 or 4 different things that can cause these to bounce, shake, and give you some issues. Okay, but like I said, most of them are all going to be related to after a crash. Usually you can tell if the tail rotor is bent by, generally just spooling it up on a table slowly and watching the tail rotor to see if it's wobbling. But if you do that and that still doesn't fix it, if you have a bent tail rotor shaft and you replace that, there's another thing that it could definitely be. Now, it's only going to be this, guys. I'm going to show you one here. Alright. This is another issue that can cause vibration and shaking and wobbling and issues. This is a torque tube, guys. At first glance, these almost look like they're made out of carbon fiber, but they're not. They're made out of aluminum. And they do bend, but they're only going to bend in the event of a tail boom crash. Boom strike with the boom is bending on you. If it bends a little bit, most chances are it's not going to damage these because they do have flex in them. But if it does bend beyond a certain amount, you're probably going to bend one of these, and that's going to cause a lot of vibration and shaking and wagging and bouncing and everything in the tail. So the number one thing is usually the tail rotor shaft. The next thing is this, if you have a boom strike. The next thing, there's a difference between vibration, wagging, bouncing. Wagging is usually going to be caused by a couple of issues. One, which a lot of guys I'm sure already know, is going to be the gain, the gyro gain being too high and too sensitive and making it wag back and forth. That can usually be fixed by just turning down the gain in the radio, in the gyro setting. For example, if you have it set at 70, putting it down to 68, a couple notches at a time until you get it right. Different gyros are going to have different gain settings, so beware of that too. You can't go buy a Futaba gyro and put the same settings into an aligned gyro. The other thing is bouncing, and I've had that in the past too. And that bouncing, when the tail bounces up and down, and then it usually will stop when it gets up to speed when it's flying. Usually that is caused by having the pitch too high and the throttle not high enough to compensate, to equal out. For example, if you were in your, say your throttle adjustments, and you didn't have your throttle set at like 100%, say it was set at 70 or 80, if you had it tuned down a little bit, that could definitely cause it. So if the pitch is too high and your RPMs are too low, that can definitely cause bouncing. I had that a lot on this because I had it tuned down a little bit the way I was flying at the time. You might even see that in some of the videos, but you can easily eliminate that by just jacking up the RPMs a little bit. So basically, that is another thing that can cause it. So you really have vibration issues, guys. You have bouncing issues, and you have wagging issues. So if you do experience any of these, if you have a new helicopter and it's never been it's never been flown before. Most chances are it's not damaged. So if you just assembled it and you're getting that, a lot of people have that issue with the 550E for some reason. You know, definitely, you know, tune it down. The gyro gain, you go down a couple notches at a time, test it, and back and forth. Like I said, if you had crashes, guys, bent tail rotor shaft is usually the biggest thing. The next thing would be if you have a boom strike and your torque tube bends. One other thing that I was plagued with at one time, because I've experienced all of these, guys, so I know from experience. I've had the tail rotor shaft bend, and that gave a lot of vibration, fixed it, went away perfect. I've had boom strikes where I never changed these. I thought they were okay and kept making the tail move like that, vibrate. I've never really had the gyro issues, gain issues. But one of my issues was I had one of these for about a month, and I could not figure out what was going on. It started to do that, to vibrate a lot. The tail rotor shaft I changed as a precaution, still was there. Changed one of these as a precaution, still was there. At that point, I started messing around with the gyro gain. If the gyro was set before, fine, so why would it change, you know? And so I did a tail rotor shaft, I did the torque tube, messed around with the gyro gain. Finally, I said, you know what? I think there's something wrong. It was an Align 750, GP 750 gyro. And I had a Futaba 401. I said, you know what? It takes 2 seconds. Why not just switch it? Switched it, boom, problem gone. It was the gyro. The gyro, something was the matter with it, and it's no good anymore. That's what was causing it. Because most of the time, guys, if you have your gain set and it flies great, it's not going to alter. You know, the gain is not something that's not going to just start wagging on you. So definitely those are probably the top things, guys. Start with a tail rotor shaft, move to one of these, check your gains are all right, and don't forget it always could be a bad gyro, but leave that as a last resort because that's a big dollar change. I was fortunate to have an extra one, so I just changed it out, but I wouldn't have wanted to spend a couple $100 to find out I was wrong. And always also too, make sure that your struts are all tightened up too, because that can give you some issues too. So make sure those are Loctited and those are in place, and you don't want to lose a strut in between the flight because that can cause you to have a lot of vibration too. But anyways, guys, that's it. I hope that these tips help you out, and that's about it. The only issues that I can see that I've experienced ever with these tails. And you know, be careful landing them. You know, you don't want to hit the blades into the dirt, so always try to land it the best you can. The 450 T-Rex helicopters, in my opinion, the skids are a little bit too narrow. Some guys put on 500 skids, but then I think it looks ridiculous flying around with the massive skids. I don't think they're really, I mean, I land them on cardboard, I land them on grass, but you got to be very careful. I've had these things go sideways many times because the grass was a little uneven, or it doesn't take much. These were really, I think, designed for a pro to take off on concrete and land on concrete and on a nice flat surface. They're, in my opinion, not the 450 size, and not really made for landing too great on grass. So you really got to be careful landing on grass. Make sure you pick a nice flat spot. Other than that, guys, I hope that these tips helped you out. If you'd like to subscribe, it's Nitro Kyosho, and I thank you for watching.